Marcus, played by Darcy Gray, is going to send shockwaves around Emmerdale when he arrives next week as Rona Goskirk, Zoe Henry, tracks him down after getting a letter from dying Pierce, Jonathan Rather. The beloved ITV soap character is sent on a quest to try and convince the newcomer to go and see his father before he passes away, as it seems the villain wants to share something with his child. It's yet to be seen if the father and son will meet in time, but if he learns more about Pierce's past, Marcus could be deeply disturbed about what he hears. The actor who plays Marcus and the new cast member, Darcy, spoke to Express.co.uk and other media about his character's reaction to Pierce's death. Darcy explained, "It's bad timing, I think, is the way he processes it. Has probably locked away Pierce in a little section of his brain and has forgotten about him other than the small, little bits that come up. And then eventually, this quite large piece of news comes in which has kind of shifted things. It opens up the potential for questions, like, well, I wonder if all of these things going on for all of these years now I can actually say it to him face to face. Maybe I can get some form of closure. There's hope that is sort of opening for him, and then his eventual demise if, like, okay. So all of that was for nothing and I can't do any of this." However, there could be another letter given to Rona which is addressed to Marcus from his father if they never got to meet. Although Marcus might not be able to vent his anger at this father for walking out on the family so many years ago, he could discover he wasn't the only child. When the villain walked away from the family home, he could have taken his son's twin with him, and because they were so young when they were torn apart, neither would be able to remember the trauma. Pierce's ex-wife would have been heartbroken over having her son ripped away from her, but she could have kept it a secret so Marcus never grew up knowing what his father did. This could begin a whole new storyline, as the newcomer could ask Rona to help track down his twin brother so they can finally meet. As he tries to make sense of his past, Marcus could be excited at the prospect of knowing he wasn't an only child, but would be angry at his father for keeping him and his twin apart. It would be hard for Rona, as she wouldn't just have one reminder of her villainous and abusive ex-husband, she would have two. The village vet could see a physical likeness of Pierce in both of his sons, but it would be a challenge to see if she would be able to cope seeing them around the Dales. With Pandora's box well and truly open, there would be no chance of tucking the twins away and trying to forget about them. Rona would become detrimental to carving a future for the pair of them as brothers, changing her own life in the process as she becomes a mother figure to them. Coming into the village, Marcus will have some knowledge of what his father did. As Darcy explained, it could be a struggle for him to see Rona. The newcomer stated, he had an idea to what happened, but it's very much an idea, has not arriving in the village knowing everything that has happened. Has got his own personal backstory idea and has also got an idea as to what has read in the papers. I think has also in the village to find out and uncover a bit more of that truth, he continued, but knowing the trauma it caused for Rona could make it harder to approach the subject. But the heartthrob will have so many questions about Pierce, as he will want to know the man who was so absent from his life. How well do you know your British soaps? How many times has Ian Beale been married in EastEnders? What is the name of Bianca Jackson and Ricky Butcher's son on EastEnders? On EastEnders in 2002, who accidentally ran Jamie Mitchell over in his car which caused his death? How many times has Corey's Steve MacDonald been married? What happened to Emily Bishop in Coronation Street? who murdered Maxine Peacock in Coronation Street in 2003? Which incident in 1993 killed off 4 characters in Emmerdale? When did the show stop being known as Emmerdale Farm? On what day did Hollyoaks air its first episode? What was the name of the much-loved Coronation Street pet dog who was put down in April 2020 after 14 years? 1996 saw the arrival of one of Hollyoaks' all-time bad boys and rival of Kurt Benson, but who is he? Who is the longest-serving character on Coronation Street? Who shot Phil in EastEnders? How many fires have there been at Corey's Rover's return? Get out of my pub, you're no soaps fan. You're either too young to remember the big lines or have better things to do on weekday evenings. Casual viewer, you watch them sometimes so you kinda know what's been going on. Die-hard fan, you love watching the soaps so much your entire week is planned around when they air. Exploring some of Marcus' backstory, Darcy explained, "He's very interesting, I think. He's also a bit of an outcast. He doesn't necessarily know what his position is, and the interesting point at this part of the storyline is that all of a sudden it has shifted what he thought was a calm life. He's got himself a job, he knows where his mum lives, and he thought he knew where he was, and then all of a sudden this piece of information comes through about his dad, and it's just shifted things and reverted it back to this unstable position for him. The reason I think he's an outcast is because he's always had that pressure from his dad. He left when he was so young, and so he never had that clear path that a lot of people do have, usually, and so now that he has come to the village, it's kind of an open book as to where the next stage of Marcus goes, so that's why I think it's quite an exciting point in his life." Executive producer, Jane Hudson, has spoken out about the new arrival and has teased a lot of drama is to come from him and his connection to Pierce. The show boss told Express.co.uk and other media, "When we meet Marcus, we don't know who he is, but then we find out he is Pierce's son." Pierce has written to Rona asking to find his son, who she didn't know about. Pierce has had no contact with him since he was young because he was abusive to Marcus' mum. This young man tips up on Rona's doorstep and she makes the wrong decision to not tell Marlon about it. Vanessa's not very happy that Marcus is there. We will have to wait and see whether Marcus is a chip off the old block or whether he's the polar opposite of Pierce. But will Marcus and his possible twin be welcomed as villagers get to know him, or will they always be outcast?